Thinking since things are going along fairly well here, we can hammer through all the different sheep and goat stuff. Maybe take an early lunch, come back, take care of the deer and the rest of the items on our agenda, and well, still ought to be out here at noon. Reasonable time.
15 minutes for deer?
Yeah, that'll be 15. If we come back, it'll be about 15 minutes for deer, and then
Off we go.
well, that's Mr. Dixon talking, and then oh, excuse me. Okay.
We have more than one comedian around here, don't we?
How many of them are out of work in the world? About all of them. Everybody else is trying to break into the field. All right, let's see what we got in the way. Tell us the story.
Showing increases in desert bighorn sheep and California bighorn sheep. Obviously, we actually had 3 die-offs, not just 2, over the last 2 years. 2 die-offs that most of us know about are these Humboldts and Rubies, but also had a die-off in Leppy Hills and Pilot Range in 091. So the Rocky populations are down, but we're adding that new hunt for the South Snake Range. It involves the herd that summers on the Great Basin National Park and winters on the BLM lands. And mountain goats, we put a lot more effort into mountain goats last year. Just we're concerned about some pathogens that not a lot of veterinarians understand. Their ability to be passed from sheep to goats, from goats to sheep. We have seen a huge reduction in kid production in the mountain goat from our February-March flight. So very few kids survive the winter. Adult survivorship, we're somewhat concerned, but we still had some pretty good numbers on surveys, so that is reflected in our tag quota reductions. Just not quite confident we're seeing as many in the mountain goats as we should. And then complicate that, we've had a huge increase in nanny harvest. It's been slowly stepping up the last few years, but last year we had 40% of all goats harvested were females. Obviously it's having an effect on the population growth. So we did institute, our field biologist in Elko did institute a voluntary website class, which is very similar to what the state of Alaska does, to educate the hunter on characteristics between male and female goats. Probably one of the biggest one is how they squat to urinate, much like a dog. And in fact, Utah, when in their nanny hunts, they actually have nanny-only hunts. You have to wait for them to urinate before you can pull the trigger. But it's, it's voluntary right now. We really want to try to educate our hunters and encourage them to harvest billies and not nannies. But so the combination of we're not sure where that population is in relation to the pathogens that were floating around with the bighorns that they interact with on top of the mountain, and that nanny harvest. So that's why we reduced those tags again for the goat hunts. So other than that, I don't have anything other specific.
On the desert bighorn, I see there's a few increases, a few decreases. We have I know 4 things brought it up about the bears being some issues, possible over harvest there, or how is that looking down there in 253?
Well, without the PIW hunter being able to hunt that, and we did get a heritage
Heritage, I didn't shoot it in there. You went to the monitors.
That's right. It was, well, actually, yeah, they harvested out of the Devil Peak area in 262 and 131.
Yeah.
So we never had any extra bighorn harvested out of the bears other than the tags that were issued.
Looking at the numbers, it looks like there's still quite a few bighorn sheep of, let's see, when we flip back to, of good size coming out of quite a few separate units. I mean, it's fairly widely distributed. And I've had some concern in the past, you know, are we storing up too many of these sheep in any particular unit and going to cause a die-off by piling them up in a place? If you could, you know, throw what you think about that. I mean, that's always a question on bighorn of any subspecies.
Well, you're not going to do it with ram harvest.
But
you gotta affect the baby makers. So that involves capture and transplant, and
but are we
a discussion point I've been trying to ease into the last few years.
Are any of our units, is there a concern that you've heard of or anybody's heard of as far as that in any of the different unit groups where that might be an issue? I mean, we heard about the rivers maybe before, or other units.
Yeah,
what do you got?
Definitely. You know, we've got. I mean, I don't know. I don't have them right on the top of my head. For example, the Monte Cristos seem to be defying anything that we can think of, and they just continue to grow.
Let's see, which unit group is that? That's
211, the north end of 211.
Yeah. Okay.
So we've had our eye on that, been monitoring that pretty closely the last few years. And then down south, you know, we've got a couple of herds. Some of it has to do with water developments down in the Mojave Desert. And, you know, we definitely have enough habitat available for them, but many of these are tied to water developments. Some of them have recently been, in the last decade, engulfed by wilderness. So it's been a challenge to recharge those if Mother Nature isn't doing that. And so again, there's several of those that we've been watching, like the muddies, the McCulloughs, and depending on, it's all really dependent on that moisture pattern that we get, or we had this last few months, would have been the primary recharge for those guzzlers for the remainder of the summer. So we definitely have a few herds out there that we're wanting to look at harder, and certainly we have the opportunity to thin them out, and we hope to try to do that in the next couple of years.
Basically, it looks like all the units, especially in area 26, the 261, 2, 3, all those have been just doing exceptional in harvest and quality. And you know, are we harvesting enough of the quality down there, or is it just in a general statistical? It looks like they've just been getting better and better and better. And I know, you know, I go back and look at real long range things. As they're looking better, pretty quick there comes a fall. Are any of these reaching that, or?
No, I mean, you look at like the muddies, for example. It's our biggest sheep herd. We've had a drop in
68, isn't it?
ram horn size.
It's like 268. Yet 8 of them. 8 out of the 13 harvested were 160 plus. 76, 13 out of 17 tags harvested.
100%.
Yeah, and the average age, you know, we
5.9.
5.9. We like to have it at 6 or above. So you know, we feel like we're putting the herd on pretty good. It's interesting. I was at the Desert Bighorn Council meeting, which was in Laughlin this year. Saw all the western states with desert bighorn herds were there. We all get up and give a statewide status report from harvest to survey to research to any major issues confronting desert bighorn, and we always get rid. You guys are over harvesting rams. It's like, no, we're taking advantage of them. You know, if you look at California and Arizona, same. If you were to look at, say, a population of 200, you know, we probably have double the tags they have with the same number of animals. So, but again, ram harvest has no effect on population numbers as a whole, and we really need to focus on the ewe removal in form or fashion. So.
All right, also more questions, but we should get public comment on this. We had some Washoe County had some input here in units 1. Oh, that's mountain goat. Which we might as well go through all the sheep and goat and everything at once. What do we got? Public comment: sheep, goat, any subspecies, super species.
Help.
Okay. Bill. Oh, wait a minute.
Glenn Copeland, Washoe County. Our board noticed actually when we got to the resident mountain goat hunt 7151 in comparison to the non-resident mountain goat 7251, the decrease in tags from 17 resident tags last year down to 8, and 2 non-resident tags last year, and it stayed at 2. And we were concerned about the 10% that that we need to that's 20% of the tags going to non-residents. Now I understand that we have hunts, but we supported moving non-resident unit group 101, the 1 tag up from the non-resident to the resident 101 hunt, to move that from 2 to 3 and change that hunt 7251 unit group 101 non-resident from 1 to 0, so that we're 1 tag for non-resident, we're still at under 10%, and 9 tags for resident. Again, that tag in this state is very hard to get. It's another sought after tag. The odds are very hard to get. And it was also our understanding that having a quota of 0 is not an issue, not a problem.
We did it last year with the Rocky Mountains. So, okay, so that was the basis for that. Other public comment?
Did he finish?
Oh, are you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, I want to make sure, sorry. Public comment: sheep, goats,
Fox.
Fox? Check the agenda.
On the, excuse me, Walt Gardner for the record. On the goat, I would rather cut the non-resident out of 102 than 101. That'd be my only comment.
Okay. Reason for that? Justification? Tell us. You live like 10 feet away from those units, so.
I think that the tag, I think the herd on the rubies got hurt worse than the herd on the East Humboldts. And I wouldn't cut it from a non-resident to a resident. I would cut it flat out.
Okay. All right, public comment. Tell a story, George.
George Corner, representing the Nevada Outfitters and Guides Association. Just to elaborate on what Walt's saying, I can give you some numbers that Caleb McAdoo gave us on the goat populations, and it was 126 and 102 and 93 and 101. And since we're just, when I say us, Nevada Outfitters and Guides Association, weren't aware of this request from Washoe County, I'll have to speak for myself, but I'm sure the rest of the Ruby Mountain Guides would agree that we believe that the department is justified in reducing the number of tags in there, very much justified. We think it might even be need to reduce some more. We've had reports of the animals that were taken last year having diseased lungs, and I think that that disease event's going to be a lot more disastrous than what we've seen. And I'd support taking the, if you're going to reduce the non-resident quota to 1, I'd like to see us at least having a non-resident quota, but have that non-resident tag in 102 and not add that tag to the resident quota that you're taking away.
Okay, question for Mr. Corner?
Did I understand, Mr. Corner, you're saying the tag should be in 102 and
Not
the gentleman said 101?
No, the other gentleman, Walt, said keep the
102.
tag in 102.
Keep it in.
No, I said scrap 102. Leave
That's what he said.
non-resident tag in 101.
No, I didn't understand you then.
Yeah.
All right.
he
I'm
said it.
completely different then.
All right, so
Because of the population.
keep one in one of them is what we've got. We got a 50-50, okay.
Right, not add a resident tag, because that quota needs to be kept down.
Okay. And do you have a reason why 102 instead of 101?
Because of the population numbers that I gave you. The 126, the number of goats in 102 is against the 93 and 101.
Okay. Public comment, sheep, goats. Somebody around here's got to want to talk about sheep or goats. Seeing none, we'll close the public comment period.
Okay.
Oh, we do have public comment.
Are you a hunter?
He's just,
Maybe this is the obvious. Don Sefton from Systems Consultants, but last year when you took the Rocky Mountain Bighorn season off, you took it before we set up the draw period and the applications. So there was no one who attempted to apply for it because they couldn't. This year, if you take the quota to 0, we've got folks that have applied for it, and we can scare up some numbers for you, but we're going to need a resolution because we could have literally thousands of people who have applied for that choice, and that may be their only choice. Typically, that's not the case. Typically, they apply for 101 and 102, but if you take the quota away, you've taken away what you've already offered, and I suspect that's probably why Mike put a quota in each one, is because there was a season for each one. Is that?
No, no. Let me explain. Well, it really goes back to the season setting process. Man, I could probably say that we flew last August of 2010. Didn't see the adults that we wanted to see, or didn't see the adults that we normally see, where we normally see them, both in 101 and 102. We were busy in the winter, but we told ourselves we were going to fly those again in the winter, both units. But we did not fly until late February, early March. Seasons were set. Now we had a hint, obviously, that we were concerned about that interaction between the mountain goats and the bighorn sheep. Although a lot of the veterinarians and scientists throughout the West have never really seen mountain goats succumb anywhere near the severity as bighorns to the same pathogen. Although we did lose mountain goats in '96 in the rubies, as when we lost the sheep. So we were waiting for that survey. We didn't get it until after the season. Although we saw a lot of adults, we didn't see any kids. So I guess we're still nervous about those tag numbers, and it may have, I have to admit, I didn't ask as many questions as I should have of our field biologist, but it may have been the nanny hunt. You know, the percent of nannies being harvested that maybe warranted that reduction. But we probably should have taken either 101 or 102 for the non-residents off the table in February, and we didn't. So
that's really what I was referring to, is that choice.
That was my mistake.
Okay.
Usually when you have
it.
a season, it's been the policy for the last 20 years that I've been involved, that if you have a season that you created in February, if there's an adverse event or some condition that's discovered that would basically cause you to oversubscribe, you still put a single tag. And at one point, it was determined with deer and non-resident that you would put 2 tags in because there was folks who were applying in parties. And that's been the practice, and what you're kind of doing is pulling the rug out from underneath people. So whatever you do, I'm just warning you that if you take that away, you're going to have to give us a resolution that we can go back and refund the money to those people or do something. So.
All right, question on what we did. I'm trying to remember from my recollection. I seem to have a different recollection. So when didn't we put a quota of 0 at this meeting? When did that occur on the Rocky Mountain? Do we have it? I mean, I don't have my minutes. You have an answer for that?
Yes, I do, Scott.
Come on up, please. We're still in public comment, so.
Michael Gerard, for the record, speaking on behalf of myself. Last year, I applied for the Rocky Mountain Bighorn in the Ruby Mountains and in the East Humboldts. And then when this meeting happened, it was lowered to 0 because of the disease. Meeting? Yeah. So basically, because I was ticked off because I felt like I wasted a year. I applied, just got a bonus point.
Yeah, that was my impression, is it happened at this meeting. It didn't happen in February.
I was referring to the non-resident.
Non-resident?
Yes.
Okay.
And again, we're talking about non-residents here.
Okay.
But we can learn from that. I think we don't want to see any more goat tags. And again, we should have had, 8 resident goat tags and 1 non-resident. But
or 9
we're
and
not
1
there.
or whatever. Yeah.
We got 2 seasons for the non-residents, and I think we live with the non-resident tags. There could be a huge outfall from having people say, you tricked us.
Was there any last year for the Rocky Mountain?
Well, residents.
How was the outfall from that?
Same.
How was the outcry?
He just told us.
There's 2 issues here. Resident and non-resident.
Yes.
Non-resident, the consequence last year was you told them up front they couldn't apply for it.
I'm talking about resident last year. Resident last year we had 0 quota and a couple units.
And I'm going to ask Monty, is he in here? Did we get phone calls on it? Where we ended up, those folks got bonus points is basically what happened? Right.
Yeah. So I mean, this would end up being basically the same thing if that happened. I'll have a different suggestion personally, but I just want to clarify. Last year they got bonus points, so if we did give them a bad deal this year and cut out one of these, we could do the same thing, give them a bonus point, and say, I'm sorry. Like we did with the residents last year with the mountain sheep. Okay. It probably won't come to that, but nonetheless, okay, we've got 2 things. We had Commissioner Macbeth. Oh, we're on public comment, and then let's finish public comment. And then rather than coming up with questions. No further public comment. Close public comment hearing. We had Commissioner Macbeth, and then
in the event that we have something that happened for what happened on the Rockies last year with the residents. Did they have an option to either take the bonus point or get their money back?
I don't think so.
I don't know what happened in the physical draw myself. I don't know.
I think we were just told they were given the option to take a bonus point or take a bonus point, and they were given a bonus point. Wait a minute, that was an option. I'd just like to throw out here, before I call over here, is, last year I was comfortable with it because it was imminent. Major danger of the population. We didn't have any. This year, it's not quite as dire of a situation. If we did indeed approve the quote of 2 and non-resident, Mr. Cox, so he could hear this would be pointed towards him. If this commission does indeed approve 2 non-resident tags, I would expect that one of those would be eliminated come next February seasons. If this, that this would be a one-time only, we wouldn't see it later. If that's what the decision of the commission, then go ahead.
Well, I
don't
think President Hunter is going to be satisfied with that solution. I will say this, that the only ones that you would have that situation involved where you could give them a bonus point are those, if we knocked out Unit 102, and the non-resident owner, that was the only unit that they put into, yes, they could get a bonus point. But if they put it into both 101 and 102, they have an opportunity for 101. I really think we need to knock out one of those bonus points for this year and just indicate to them that if they were, for those who put strictly into 101 or 102, whichever one we decide, send them a letter that says that because of the effects of continuing effects of the email, because the continuing effects of the die-off, we have had to reduce by one resident tag in this area, and reducing it to 0 will give you a bonus point for it.
Okay, Commissioner Strum.
Mr. Chairman, why don't we just go ahead and eliminate the one tag for 102, move it into 101, we'll have 2 tags there, and let one of these non-residents go ahead and hike up the Steel Lake, see how they like it.
Okay. Mr. Vice Chairman.
What happened last time is we didn't put the agenda right, and we couldn't close the season. And because of the agenda wasn't properly agenda-sized. And so that meant we had to have a hunt in there. But then we had to die off, and so it was advertised as a hunt, but we put the quote at that. Because we have a responsibility to protect the resource. And it's the same situation here. And I don't care whether it's res or non-res, because I had correspondence with a guy that was from Afghanistan. He's in the military. And he could either take that or not. But we let him take that one tag, and he could either hunt or not hunt. Or he could carry it over. And so it doesn't make any difference between resident and non-resident. So if we have to protect the resource, so if we have staff tell us that we got a problem with goats, we have too many non-residents, then we should say, hey, the quota is 0. And give them a bonus point because we didn't offer money back. I think it's just a bonus point. And most of these people would rather have a bonus point. And I think that we have too many tags, non-resident tags. I'm not sure whether we should add one to the resident or not, because we heard they don't want to give any more goats out, so we probably shouldn't do it. But if we have to eliminate the non-resident, we should be afraid to do it.
All right, we have Commissioner Cavan, and then we have more. Please continue, Commissioner Cavan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Proceed.
The resource is okay. The resource isn't perfect, but the resource is okay, is what they're telling us. So we don't have an emergency, and I think we have an obligation to the people that applied for this hunt to be able to get their hat in the ring. The problem I see with a bonus point is if we're going to have 8 tags next year, we're not going to have a non-resident hunt anyway. Is that if we don't have 10?
Yep.
So giving them a bonus point is not giving them anything. So I think we have an obligation to suffer through this year, and we don't have to make any apologies to anybody. We don't have to deal with any lawsuits. There's 1 tag in there.
There's 2 tags.
And there's 1 tag in each unit, so anybody that applies has a chance at a draw. And we suffer through for 1 year. We could be looking at closing the season next year. I mean.
All right, I have a question for head of our game chief on this. Tell us about the resource. How's it doing?
Are you worried?
Okay, I'll give you for the record, Larry Gilbertson, Department of Wildlife. Mr. Chairman.
Which unit would you want it to come out?
Biologically, just to put it into perspective, in our winter flight, we observed 93 goats in Unit 101. We saw 85 adults and 8 kids. And the difference between goats and bighorn is when we have a die-off, we'll see almost no kids. They're almost all gone. The good news here is there were some kids that did make it that long. So the effects of the disease aren't as total on goat populations as they are on sheep. And to put this in more perspective, when we first planted goats in the Rubies in East Humboldt, we started with a population of 6 goats in each one of those. 6 goats is what we planted in each one of those mountains. So we're talking 93 goats that we saw, and I'm not going to ever say we saw them all. And if with the 93 we saw and 3 tags we're recommending, if they shot 3 nannies, we'd be down to 90 goats in that population. It's a far cry from the 6 we started with. In the other unit, Unit 102, there's 126 goats that we saw. Again, I'm not going to say we saw them all. 114 adults and 12 kids. This was in the winter survey. We're talking 6 tags there. If they shot 6 nannies, we'd be down to 120 goats. Again, a far cry from the 6 we started with. It's not a biological issue with the tags the department recommended. We just want to express our concern. We have even more concern in 103 where we saw fewer goats. And next year we will act accordingly and make season recommendations to match what our assessment of the die-off if it continues next year. So.
Thanks, Larry.
Okay, we have Commissioner Howell had his hand up 3/4 of an hour ago.
Mike, you were going to try to address the gentleman, I think from Ely, his question about the 10%, how you got around that on this, how you got to 2 for the non-resident when there's only 8 tags for resident.
Yeah.
You were going to address that, right? Yeah.
If you don't mind, I'll address that. Historically, when goat tags started to increase, and we had the result of the Tolman lawsuit to provide 10% opportunity to non-residents, we opened up a non-resident hunt. And out of concern for the exact situation that we're facing right now, and also the fact that the department didn't want to appear discriminatory towards guides or outfitters that in that particular area have areas of geographic responsibility, we allowed non-residents the luxury of choosing to hunt in both 101 and 102. That would allow us to take the quota down to 1 in the event that we had a disease issue, and it would also allow those non-residents to choose guides that were relegated to each of those 2 areas and not be discriminatory towards those that could just guide in one area or the other. There was a perception by, I don't know if it was sportsmen, that it was an unfair advantage to those non-residents to be allowed to hunt in both those units. And they said it wasn't fair, we need to force them to hunt in each of those units. So now we have the hunt in 101 and we have the hunt in 102 with a minimum quota of 1 in each. So we have to, because we have that hunt on the books and because we're required to provide at least 1 tag with the hunt on the book, we got to 2. Then we decreased the resident quota commensurate with the concern, increased nanny harvest, perception of a disease event, and it increased that percentage from what we're required to provide, 10, to actually 20.
So that solves the other problem then.
Mr. Vice Chairman, comment.
No, I did. It's not 10%. We took the residents down from 17 to 8, and left the non-residents the way they are, and that's not 10%. And we're going to stay with 10%. Let's give them 1 tag, the non-residents, leave it at 10%, and pick an area then.
Okay, Mr. Capurro.
Well, I guess that, if I understand correctly, we obviously can't have a problem in just cutting one or the other out. But is it possible, even though we have people signed up for a tag in both areas, to again email them and say that there's only 1 tag, the successful hunter can hunt in either.
I think we're beyond that.
I don't know. What does the tag say?
I don't want to go back to that.
That gets a little bit...
that's a good question. Is it a season or a quota if you combine the areas? I don't know the answer to that question.
Be simpler to do something. It'd complicate the draw process.
No.
I think Mr. Sefton would look at me like,
Not nearly
huh?
as much as it if you knock one out.
Mr. Sefton, please come up and tell us how complicated that would make your life, or maybe it'd be easy.
Wait till you get to the microphone and start talking.
Don Sefton from Systems Consultants. I missed that question, but I did want to bring up one other issue that I'll just bring up now. We talked pretty blithely about giving bonus points. With residents, that's pretty much an automatic because most residents come into the draw with a license or buy one through the draw. With non-residents, that's not necessarily true. So we could have, and I've asked Monty to run a query, and we may not have that info in time for your decision, but I've asked him to run a query to tell us how many people last year did not get a bonus point because that was their only choice, the residents I'm referring to, that was their only choice and they didn't have a license. And then how many of the non-residents this year that's their only choice and either 101 or 102, depending on which one you pick, and they don't have a license option that would cause them to get a bonus point? Or are you saying that we would just give them a bonus point even though they didn't maintain the license in the year in question?
We might not have the authority to do that, and we probably don't even want to explore it. Okay, Commissioner Pearl.
You said he missed the question.
Yeah, I missed the question you guys were asking me as to what would complicate the draw.
The question is, if we said we cut it to 1 and advised them that you combine the units and they can hunt in either one, how complicated does that? They can hunt, if there's one tag or non-resident, they can hunt either 101 or 102.
I think the issue, Monty's got his head down running the query, but if I understand it, the issue would really be what we printed on the tag, that they would, whatever one they applied for, I think the easiest thing for us to do programmatically would be to push them into a different hunt choice, a new hunt choice that doesn't exist now. And that new hunt choice would imply both units, and you'd put a quota of 1 in that hunt choice. And
we can't do that now because it's not agendized.
Yeah.
Can't change the agenda, but we can.
You know, I'm thinking of.
Could we?
Well, that's the way I'd physically implement it. Otherwise, you'd build a wing on my house. I mean, the cheap way to do it programmatically would be to say, we'll artificially create a new hunt choice. You know, where before I'm making numbers in the records, yeah. Where before, and I'm making this up, maybe
so hunt 106 would be combined with two.
Right. Instead of having, and I'm making the numbers up, an 837 choice and an 838, we'd have a new one that was 839, and that new choice would be a non-resident only. We'd map all the people who had that choice now into it, and I would ask the DAG, is that legal and everything? Can we do that?
Cost would be 10,000.
and you wouldn't even have to build a wing on my dog's house for that. So
these guys over here. All right.
So
we're back to Mr. Stockton.
So in thinking about it, the way I conceptualize it is the quotas basically there's one between those two areas, and so I'm okay that's within what we're talking about on the agenda item. So I think you can do it that way.
All right. Let me throw out something on a totally different subject, which is back with bighorn sheep. Now, I was just wondering why when we were looking like the success was pretty good in some of these bighorn sheep units, and yet we were cutting back in area 262. We cut back a tag, and we cut back 271 a tag. Is there a particular reason for those being cut, or does it look like success was great last year? Is there a population issue that I didn't see going on, or?
We have a process that we follow based on the statewide management plan for bighorn sheep, and it entails collecting the data as best we can using our population models, plugging into the known harvest of the rams. So all this information is in an attempt to track the population, and for this hunt, the age structure of the rams.
Mm-hmm.
So when we see our criteria for establishing a quota is 50% of the modeled rams that are 6 years or older, or 8% of the total rams, but not to exceed the 50%. So those are the criteria we use. And again, these rams that are being killed anywhere from 3 years of age to 12 years of age, they're being born years ago. We're tracking those cohorts through time, as I showed you in the population model, and we account for the known harvests. And so it just happened to be where we got below the 50% of the 6-year-olds or older with 12 tags, or with 6 tags, and that's why we reduced it to 5.
I was just checking. It's like 271, for example. You know, we had 100% success. The average age 6.1 years. You know, so it must have been. Looks like that was, you know, some great success. And last year it looked pretty similar. I looked at the last year's book too.
We assume 100% success in every one of these hunts.
You assume?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's part of the policy. It's commission policy.
Okay. Yep. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, thanks. I had a question, Mike, on 253. We took the PIW out of there, and with the assumption that, you know, that was some people, additional tags coming in there, and you said it didn't make a biological difference on the harvest. We had an increased harvest in there over the resident hunters, but by removing the PIW, we should be able to increase maybe 1 or 2 tags for the residents, and we didn't do that. We still have 5 and 5 last year and this year the same. We didn't increase that, and we know a PIW hunter can't go back in there.
We made the switch from 09 to 10.
Mm-hmm.
So we had 3 tags. I'm pretty sure we had 3 tags. So that's when we made the adjustment to 5.
And so that's, you don't think we can increase that anymore without the PIW being?
Well, the PIW can actually
Yeah.
kill a ram in 2011.
Yeah, 2011.
bears.
All right. I'd like to hear from Commissioner Wallace. He hasn't spoken on this, and then maybe we've probably beaten these subjects about to death. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had received a couple of emails from the Esmeralda cab. They were unable to have a meeting, and they're questioning that jump to the 9 and 7 and 211 north and south. They feel that that's a huge number for as small of the area that you're working in, and since we all know that sheep hunting is a team sport, they're very concerned about hunter congestion and just the numbers in general. I mean, the one brought up that there was 156 sheep, 48 were rams, and 211 south, and you've proposed a 7 for that. And the other one had 311 sheep with 78 rams, and it's 9. So you've got, it's not quite double, but you're only 2 tags more in the north versus the south.
Those numbers are from what?
From the 2010 survey.
Right, and that it's just a sample. That's not the population.
Well, right, I understand, but that is where their concern lies, and I have to agree with them on that. I mean, that's my neck of the woods, and that's a small area to be putting 9 hunters. And I'm more familiar with 211 South, and 7 hunters is a huge number for that area.
All right.
And would just throwing it out there, would you be opposed to a 7 and a 4? 7 tags in north and 4 tags in south?
You know, the population is growing very well, and I hear you about, you know, hunter congestion. I'm just looking at some comparative areas that may have some similar quotas. You know, I guess I look at landmass wise. I don't think the Muddies are much different than the Monte Cristos, and we've got 20 some tags in there. The population can certainly support that ram harvest in both of those mountain ranges. And again, I said earlier, it's just an extraordinary positive situation we've seen, that those populations have been doing far better than we thought they would.
Well, in my opinion, in the 211 South in particular, like I said, I'm more familiar with that. You do have a large area there, but the area that the sheep are actually inhabiting isn't that large.
There's clumped, yeah, there's patchiness in the.
And that's where I have the concern with the congestion, because you're not spreading it over the entire county, you're spreading it over a pretty small area in general. I'm just throwing it out there. I kind of want to get your opinion on that because
we didn't get any. Well, I don't know. Did we get any complaints from hunters last year? It's just one more tag in the Silver Peaks, and well, one each.
Okay. Well, I'm looking at the average sizes and stuff too. We don't have any size in that area to speak of. Well, I mean, I don't know if
those animals are. Yeah, you can't look at size because they're an endemic herd that
it has issues.
Biologists and sportsmen have always said they're mini heads. So it's really the age. We really need to look at the age. Let's take a look at. We actually have it in the status book. We have the long-term average, and then we can look at just last year's.
You see the last year's, is that in here? I didn't see that.
Yeah, if you 5.7, 6.4.
Just point out the page you're going to be looking at.
See the average. There's not for last year though. That's the average.
If you look on page 831, it'll tell you the average age of all rams killed. So 211 north it was 6.4, and 211 south was 8.0, and that was just the 2010 harvest. Long term. If you go to page 835, the average age of all the rams that have been killed since 1992, 211 north, the Monte Cristos is 5.7. So we're, again, 6.4 was just last year, so that was above that. And obviously 8.0 is quite a bit
above.
Bigger than 6.4. So the trend, there's no trend showing we're down, below 6.0 as an average age. If that was the case last year, and if we would have had poor lamb recruitment 5, 6, 7 years ago, I would definitely say that, a reduction is warranted. But I'm pretty sure Tom Downham, was looking at this information along with the past lamb recruitment that would put those rams in those mature age classes, and so we feel pretty comfortable. But
okay, Mr. Vice Chairman,
ready for a motion?
Give it. Let's see where it falls.
Okay. We'll do the
no more than 8 amendments.
We'll do the sheep, the desert sheep, and did you want to do the goats too, or just the desert sheep, or what?
Yeah. Sure, why not?
I'll do the desert sheep and the goats. Can't hear me. I'll do the desert sheep and the goats. I make a motion that in hunt 3151, we go with the department's recommendations. I heard the testimony, and you might get a motion, but my concern on 211 north and south, that was the letter I got was one person's opinion, and that we had staff tell us that many heads down there, and look at the age classification. I think we can go with that increased amount. And then for the non-resident, hunt 3251 as the department recommends, and I'll do the mountain goat, hunt 7151 resident.
Why don't you do that separate, just because that's going to take some discussion.
Well, do you want to do it all together or separate?
It's separate so we can discuss.
Okay, let's do that separate. That's my motion then for the desert sheep.
Hold on. Waiting on something.
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded to approve hunts 3151, 3251 as proposed by the department. But I understand we have two comments. We have Commissioner Capurro and Commissioner Wallace.
The only concern to me again is that you've got a total of 201 resident hunts.
Speak into the microphone, sir. It's very hard to hear you.
If I had a microphone, I would.
Steal one from down over here. Got it.
Our residence number shows 201 recommendation, and non-residents, again, is 22. Why isn't it 20?
It's 10% of the 220.
So,
10% of
okay,
the combined, which is 221. 10% of 221 is 22.
I didn't know you take 10% out of the
Total.
out of the resident hunt.
10% of the tags
What I'm saying
go to
is
these
you
and
have-
90% to the
Well,
others.
that's not the way they did it under the California or on the resident tags there is 50 and it's 5 for the California.
We gave the nod to the residents on that one. We could have went to 6. It was
All right.
5.5.
All right, what I'm looking at here is, do we have an amendment to change, swap something, or are we, or commentary, or where are we at?
Commentary.
He's, okay. Just wanted to see if we're done. Okay. Commissioner Wallace.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I have a motion to amend the Nelson Desert Bighorn Sheep Hunt area 211 north to 8 and 211 south to 6, which were the 2010 quotas, and the non-resident as presented.
And I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion to amend the main motion, and if this passes, the full amendment would be both hunts 3151, 3251 be as presented by the department, with the exception of 8 in 211 north, 6 211 south. This would just change the main motion. Does everyone understand that motion? We're gonna have some splits, so all in.
Let me ask you.
The amendment to the motion, yes.
Let me ask you the question. After you finish with this motion, can there be another motion?
Yeah, well, this will amend
Let's
the.
deal with this one.
Yeah, this amendment. Everybody understand this amendment? All in favor of this amendment, signify by raising your hand. All opposed? Okay, motion to amend passes by 7-1. Commissioner Lent opposed.
So that's a 7-4.
The opposed was Commissioner Lent, and the other 7 in favor of that amendment. Okay. So now we have a new amended motion, and go ahead, main
I
motion.
would like to amend the motion by reducing on the non-resident Nelson Desert Bighorn Hunt 3251 Hunt Unit Group 268 back to last year's quota of 3. And my justification is the same unit on resident is the same as it was last year. So I don't see any reason why it should have been increased.
Okay.
Second. Run that by again.
It's been properly moved and seconded to reduce in Hunt 3251 the quota from 260 and Unit 268 from 4 to 3. This would be to amend the main motion.
And the justification was that the resident hunt didn't change numbers. It's still 17. So
And we'd still be right in there, give or take a number on the 10%. It's only talking to number 1, so it's basically irrelevant. All right. Everybody understand the amendment? Proposed amendment? Yes, it was seconded by Commissioner Vogler. Everybody understand the motion to amend?
Can I?
Discuss the discussion of the motion, Commissioner Cavan.
Are we still within our 10%?
We just went off.
What are?
99.9.
That's without the change. That's without any changes.
Close enough for government work.
9.5.
Oh, and we took 2 out. Did you?
One out.
Already.
Took 1 out.
No, but we already took 2 out with an
We
amended.
already took 2 out.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe we're still close.
Sure we are.
We're close, not.
Hold on, he's still fixing there's that.
Whatever you decide for a significant digit.
We'll
round up. It's 10.
We're all close enough for,
Okay.
we're not getting any lawsuits, I don't think, over this. If we do, we have Mr. Stockton. He can deal with 0.5%. So,
I'm not doing it for
everybody understand the motion to amend? All in favor of the motion to amend signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion to amend passes 8-0. Now we have a new main motion. New main motion has 3 changes, and they are to units in 3151, that's in 21 North, is now 8, 211 South is 6, 3251, Hunt 268 would now be 3. Everyone understand the main motion? All in favor of the main motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Looking for motion on Hunt's 8151, 9151. First, please.
How about 80?
We didn't discuss California.
Okay, well, we've talked, or another motion. Heck, throw out a motion. We got a motion, Mr. Pearl.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the department's recommendations for Hunt 8151, 8251, and 9151.
I second it.
Been properly moved and seconded to approve department's recommendations for 8151, 8251, 9151. Everyone understand the motion?
Questions?
I have a question.
We have question, comment on the motion.
What does that do with not allowing a non-resident tag? Is the number so low that you?
We haven't got there yet.
There's no non-resident Rocky Mountain?
Right.
No non-resident Rocky season.
Right.
And we eliminated that February.
Okay.
We did one thing right.
There's no resident
We're not
tags.
gonna get in trouble for it, that's my
No.
question.
No.
Okay.
I had a
Okay, Mr. Vice Chairman, go right ahead.
question. What's the status of the Rockies now as far as these quotas go? Could you update us on that a little?
On 074.
9151.
074, the herd is stable. That's the contact herds. And 114 is the Mount Moriah herd. And it's stable, slightly decreasing. But we definitely have ample mature rams for the 2 tags. And then the 115, the South Snake Range, we physically saw 6 mature rams, 6 years or older, just a few months ago. And so we feel comfortable with the tag quotas.
The Moriah not showing any signs of disease?
No disease sign in any of those 3 herds.
The domestic sheep that run close to Moriah are healthy, okay?
Okay.
They taste the same.
Okay.
They all taste the same.
All right. We have a motion on the floor. Does everyone understand that motion? All in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Let's move on. We got 7151, 7251. Go ahead.
Me?
Go ahead, Mr. Vice Chairman. You said you had something?
Okay, I got a question first, can we close one of the non-resident tags, take one of the non-resident tags out? Yes or no?
Answer is yes, we did it last year.
You can set a quota at 0 if the
Okay.
population is justified.
Okay. I propose not to increase that, but my motion is on Hunt 7151 to increase 101 to 3 tags and leave the rest the same, and for Hunt 7251 to remove the 1 tag and 101 and make that a quota of 0.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second on the floor. Everybody understand that motion? We have comments, amendments, Commissioner
I offer
Pearl.
an amendment to the motion.
Okay.
I'd like to amend the non-resident portion to 1 tag to allow the successful hunter to hunt in either unit group.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. I have a question for perhaps best answered by Mr. Sefton. Is if that motion, if this passes as amended there, is this something that'll take you more than a minor amount of time to resolve?
No wing on the. Let me state back to you the way I understand Mr. Corporo has suggested and Mr. Macbeth has seconded. As I understand it, the people who have applied as non-residents for 101 or 102 will all be treated the same, that they will either draw or not draw that one tag. And so effectively, internally, if in the system, if I translate their hunter choice to a new hunter choice that doesn't exist now but we'll add it to the table, that new hunter choice will specify both units and the same season that's in there now. And there'll be a quota of 1 in there. And I print on the tag that they can, that they have unit 101 or unit 102 for that season. Good.
That's legal as far as Brian's concerned, and that's what your two of you are requesting?
Yep.
Yes.
I think that's pretty straightforward. I think that we can do that.
How big? Okay, question would be is how big would the wing on the house be involving this?
Yeah, I think this one would be a wing on the doghouse. Frankly, I think we're talking about under $1,000. So.
That's a nice doghouse, by the way.
I was going to say something smart. You should know, but yeah.
Are we budgeted
That's
for
where
that?
he lives, in the doghouse.
Oh, do we really need?
Yeah, exactly. That's where I'm living. Yeah. So.
You know, I'm looking at this wondering, is that in discussion of the motion, is that necessary?
Discussion of the amendment.
A discussion of the amendment, is that necessary to do that? Do we want to deal with? I mean, why would we spend the extra money? Is it for the benefit? Cost benefit analysis says. In my mind,
Chairman, the main motion is to strike one of them completely.
Which would not involve anything, any extra.
Yeah, there's going to be a whole bunch of feedback from the non-residents. Those who didn't buy a license and who applied for the choice you choose to strike, they've got, I'm sure, some quibble with you because we offered it, we accepted it, we took their money. I'm not an attorney.
My discussion of the matter would involve, you know, I don't think that what we're trying to do here is worth the headache, time, and/or money to deal with it.
I'll second that.
So, I'm not making a motion. I'm making some commentary on the amendment and then whatever to do to the main motion. So maybe, you know, whatever happens here, I just as soon see it, you know, it go to what the department recommended and we deal with this February and strike one of these suckers. You know?
That's the way you vote then.
That's my commentary on the matter. And there's not a motion and second on the floor.
Comment then.
Okay, we have some more commentary.
The with the amount of money that the draw raises, I don't want to spend money that doesn't need to be spent, but we have plenty of money to take care of our constituents. And $1,000 to not have phone calls and not have to deal with the backlash is money well spent as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely.
Okay. Does everyone understand the amendment to the main motion? You're now amending the main motion. So the main motion would read, unit group 101 in Hunt 7151 would be 3. The non-resident would be essentially combined into 1 with a quota of 1 total non-resident. All in favor of that amendment to the main motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 7-1. Commissioner Howell opposed. I'm frustrated. Oh, that doesn't count as anything in that. Now, we have a main motion on the floor. Does everybody understand the main motion? Want any amendments to the motion, or are we moving on to vote on it?
Vote.
All right, all in favor of the main motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-1.
I'm hungry.
Stick it to your guns.
Lunch, be back at...
Shit, he is pissed.